Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Easy Learn. And today's topic is algebra, within which we're going to be doing quadratic equations. Now, we've already discussed that quadratic equations can be solved using three methods. One of them is zero factor property, the other one is completing the square, and the last one is the quadratic formula. Now, for the zero factor property, I've already discussed in my previous video. If you haven't watched it, I'll drop down the link in the description below. You can check it out and understand that. And then for today's lesson, we're going to be doing completing the square. To begin with, you must know whichever method you're using, you need to know that the quadratic equation format is something like this. A quadratic equation looks like this. Ax squared plus bx plus c. This is the general way, the general arrangement, how you would see a quadratic. And it says x squared. It definitely is supposed to have an x squared. Wherever you see an x squared, you need to know that that's a quadratic. Now we have ax squared plus bx plus c. Now this a, b, and c could be any numbers, whatever is given to you, and x squared and x and the fact that there should be a number in place of that c is the general arrangement of a quadratic equation. So ax squared plus bx plus c. Now for completing the square, there is a specific formula or again an arrangement that you have to use in order to be able to solve a quadratic equation using completing the square. And that arrangement looks something like this. You open up a bracket and you put x plus b over 2a and then close bracket whole squared minus b squared over 4a plus c. Now, wherever you see b, a, c, all of that is the numbers that is already going to be there in your quadratic equation. As you can see on the top right now, we're just talking about the general formula, so that's why we're referring to ABC. And the x also stays x. In place of your b, a, and c, you're going to have numbers, but your x is going to stay x. It's kind of a constant. It just stays x. You don't write anything, any number over there, right? So we have x plus b over 2a whole squared minus b squared over 4a plus c. Now let's look at an example and see how we can use this arrangement to solve a quadratic equation. So again, we have let's say x squared plus 2x minus 3. Now that's an equation, a quadratic equation given to me. And if I am asked to solve this using completing the square, first thing I need to see is that the general way of the general quadratic form is ax squared plus bx plus c. So I have to figure out what's my ABC. Now, as you can see that with the x squared, I have my a, and with this x squared, there's nothing, which means there's an invisible 1, which means that my a is equal to 1. With my b, here on top, as you see, that's 2x. So my b, I am not going to write b is equal to 2x because x is already there in the general form. I have to see what's my b. B is supposed to be a number, so b is 2. And then what's my c? It's negative 3. C is equal to negative 3. Now, once I have figured out my A, B, and C, now I have to use the completing the square arrangement to to solve the quadratic equation. Now, what was the completing the square formula or arrangement? It was x plus b over 2a whole squared minus b squared over 4a plus c. This is something you need to remember. If you don't remember this, it's going to be hard to use completing the square. It has a general format and you have to follow that format to be able to solve. So we have x plus, so I'm just going to put a bracket and I'm just going to write x plus b over 2a means what's my b now? It's 2. So I'm going to take 2 over 2 times a because 2a means 2 times a. A is just 1. So I'm going to write 2 times 1 and whole squared on the top minus b squared. Now again, my b is 2. So minus b squared means minus and then 2 squared over, now I have a 4 times a. So 4 times a, that is 1, plus c, and this time my c is minus, so if I do plus and minus 3, so it just opens up and I have a minus 3, which means 2 squared over 4 times 1 minus 3, because I have to add a plus c in the end, right? So here I have x plus 2 over 2 times 1 whole squared minus 2 squared over 4 times 1 and a minus 3 in place of my c. Now, if I want to work it out, because this is not the final version of it, you have to work it out. You have to open up, simplify, wherever it's needed, you add, you subtract. So now let's see what we can do. So x plus 2 over 2, because 2 times 1 is 2 whole squared, minus 2 squared, 2 times 2 again, 2 squared is 4, times 4 times 1 is just 4, minus 3. Now if I want to just cut it short, or if I want to just finalize it, so x plus 2 divided by 2 is just 1, 2 ones are 2, 2 ones are 2, and x plus 1 whole squared minus 4 divided by 4 again, 4 ones 4, 4 ones 4, so the answer is just 1 minus 3. Now we have minus 1 and minus 3. Now this is, again, these are, both of these are numbers, so you need to add or subtract. So I have x plus 1 whole squared, and minus 1 minus 3 means whenever you have a negative and another negative, you add them up and the sign is supposed to stay negative. You don't subtract them, you add them and the sign stays negative. So 3 plus 1 is 4, and because I have to have the second the negative sign, then I'm going to write negative 4. So this is my final answer. This is the arrangement that I get from using completing the square. Now, if I'm asked to find the value of x, then for that, I need to equate this whole thing to 0. I'm going to write x plus 1 whole squared minus 4 equals 0. I equate it to 0 in order to solve. So I have to take, first of all, I need to take my negative 4 to the other side. So I have x plus 1 whole squared is equal to negative 4 goes to the other side, turns into positive 4. Now, if I want to find out my x, obviously, again, I need to isolate the x. I need to make x the subject. I need to take everything to the other side. So this square now goes to the other side. When a square goes to the other side, it always turns into a square root. So I'm going to write x plus 1 is equal to square root of 4. Now, one thing you need to remember whenever, now because obviously whoever is using or solving quadratics, they must know that you are probably in higher grades, and if you are in higher grades, square root just doesn't mean that you just find out the square root of 4. Square root means you find the positive and negative square root of 4. A square root answer always results in a positive value and a negative value, not just one single value, right? So we have positive, negative, square root. Now square root of 4 just is 2. 2 times 2 gives me 4, so square root of 4 is just 2. But we have x plus 1 is equal to a positive 2, and x plus 1 is equal to a negative 2. Why a negative? As I said, that square roots are taken in a positive answer and another negative answer. Now that I have to find x, now also one thing you need to know, that quadratics always results in two values. You will always get, most of the times, 99% of the times, you will get two values of x whenever you are solving quadratics. Um, and then if you are going any higher degree, like if you're going x cubed, then the values are supposed to be three values. If it's x4, four values, like that. It keeps on going like that because this one's x squared, so you have supposed to get two values most of the times. So now I have x plus 1 equals 2, so I take the 1 to the other side, so x is equal to 2 minus 1, x is equal to 1. This is one of my answers. And the next answer, x plus 1 is equal to negative 2. Now 1 goes to the other side, so it's a plus 1 here, goes to the other side, turns into negative 1. So minus 2, minus 1. Now x is equal to minus 2 minus 1 means, again, you negative and negative, you add them up and you get the negative answer. So x is equal to 2 plus 1, that is 3, and a negative sign. So x is equal to negative 3. So x equals 1, x equals negative 3. In the previous video, I explained the zero factor property, and it was the same example I used, and we got x is equal to 1 and x is equal to negative 3, which means that all the, whatever arrangement you use, whatever way you try and solve the completing the square or zero factor property, or you use quadratic equation, the quadratic formula for finding out the quadratic equation's answer, for finding out the x values, you always get the same answer whichever method you use. But it just depends on what the question is asking you to do, which paper are you doing, what is the paper's requirement. Or but sometimes when it's not really required to use completing the square or the zero factor, people just go in and use the quadratic formula and straight away calculate and get the answer. But sometimes they require the format, because completing the square not only gives you the x values, but there are also other things that help you out in forming the graphs. That's the reason completing the square is used. So and we'll discuss those graph parts later in our videos. But for now, this is the general completing the square arrangement, and you can find the x values using this arrangement when you're solving the quadratic equation. So that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching Easy Learn. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. If you have any questions, any confusions, you can drop them down in the comment section below. Thank you so much.